How do you take a measly $1,000 and a really, really brutal insult and spin it into a $1 billion empire? Well, that is the incredible story of Barbara Corcoran, and today we're going to tear apart her playbook piece by piece to see how she turned every single setback into pure rocket fuel. Okay, it all kicks off with this number, $1,000. You know, every huge success story has a starting point, right? For Barbara Corcoran's empire, it was this, just $1,000. But where that money came from? Well, that's the real kicker. Yeah, that loan, it came from her boyfriend and business partner at the exact moment he was dumping her. Can you imagine? After 7 years together, he walks out the door, but not before hitting her with this absolutely crushing line. Talk about a gut punch. It was personal, it was professional, it was everything, all wrapped up in one terrible sentence. And this was her answer. $66 million. That's what she sold the Corcoran Group for, the company she built from absolute scratch after he left. See that insult? It didn't crush her. It did the opposite. It basically forged her entire identity.
So that really is the big question, isn't it? How did she turn that ultimate rejection into the ultimate fuel? Because this wasn't just about getting revenge. Oh no. It was about building a whole system, a mindset, a playbook that took every single weakness she had and turned it into a massive strength. Let's dive in and see exactly how she pulled it off.
All right, first up, the first pillar of her success. And it's a big one that totally flips what most of us think on its head. For Barbara, a weakness isn't something you hide or feel ashamed of. It's something you use. It's something you weaponize. And this mindset, it started way, way before that infamous breakup. You see, back in school, they called her the dumb kid. She couldn't really read or write well. Turns out it was undiagnosed dyslexia, and she felt this deep shame about it. But check out how she flipped the script. Being labeled stupid actually forced her to become a master of making things simple. Since she couldn't lean on complicated text, she had to build this incredibly visual, intuitive way of thinking. A mind that could just slice through all the noise and communicate with huge impact. I mean, listen to this. She says it herself. She calls dyslexia the best thing that ever happened to her. She doesn't see it as a disability at all. She sees it as her personal training ground, the thing that created her unique way of thinking about business. It gave her this fire, this unstoppable drive to prove everyone wrong, not on some test, but out in the real world where it actually counts. Okay, so you've got this unique way of thinking. How does that actually play out in the business world? Well, picture this. She's jumping into the New York City real estate game. This is a world totally dominated by the old boys club, old money, old rules. She didn't have their cash, so she knew she couldn't outspend them. She was going to have to outthink them. And here it is, her unconventional playbook. It's a simple 3-step process. Step 1, find their weakness. And for the old boys network, it was obvious. They were slow, stuffy, and had zero imagination. Step 2, weaponize your own strengths. For her, that meant being super agile and relentlessly creative. And step 3, dominate with imagination. So while they were having lunch at their fancy clubs, she was out there creating the Corcoran Report, this market analysis that she got out before anyone else. She was doing bold, flashy marketing and making herself the person the media had to talk to. It was brilliant. She proved that speed and imagination will beat deep pockets and a stuffy reputation every single time. But her playbook wasn't just about what was happening on the outside, fighting the competition. It was just as much about building a fortress on the inside, a company culture that was absolutely unshakable. Because for Barbara, culture isn't some fluffy nice to have. It's not a side effect of success. She believes it's the cause of it. And what's the number one threat to that cultural fortress? She has a great name for them. Energy thieves. She figured out really early that one person who complains all the time, even if they're a top performer, is like a poison. It's not just that they're in a bad mood, it's that their negativity spreads. Doubt starts to creep in, teamwork falls apart, and before you know it, your best people are polishing up their resumes. So her solution was pretty radical, but simple. Protect the vibe at all costs. She realized that whatever money a toxic superstar salesperson brings in is nothing compared to the damage they do to the team spirit. So she had a rule, a non-negotiable rule. If you're a chronic complainer, you're out, period. By getting rid of the thieves, she built this safe space where her good kids, as she called them, could actually thrive. But just getting rid of the bad stuff isn't enough, right? You have to build the good stuff. And that led to her next big idea, fun as a strategy. And let's be clear, this wasn't about foosball tables and free snacks. This was a deliberate strategic management tool. She would throw these wild costume parties and crazy team outings for one reason, to smash the office hierarchy, build real friendships, and spark creativity. For her, it's simple. A team that laughs together wins together. Now, this obsession with people, with their grit, their spirit, their drive, it didn't just stop with her own company. It actually became her entire philosophy as an investor. It's the exact same playbook you see her use every single week on Shark Tank. Her thesis is so clear. Look at this comparison. She almost never bets on the privileged founder who has a safety net. Why? Because when things get really hard, they often just don't have that fire, that bite. They can just quit. Who she's looking for is the hungry founder. The person with a chip on their shoulder, the one who's been resourceful their whole life because they had to be, the one who is desperate to win because there is no plan B. The message to any entrepreneur out there is so important. She's not buying your fancy business plan. She's buying you. She's investing in your story and your grit. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? She'll take the hungry kid with something to prove every single time. A fancy degree, a polished PowerPoint, that stuff means almost nothing to her. What matters is that raw hunger from someone who's had to fight for every single thing they've ever gotten. Sweat equity for her is the only currency that really counts. Because of course, that's her own story. Okay, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, this might be the most important part of the entire Corcoran playbook. It's the fundamental mindset that holds everything else up. This core belief that it's not what happens to you that matters, it's how you react to it. That's what creates your reality. The way she sees it, you have a choice in every situation. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to take responsibility. Victims just blame everyone else for their problems, and guess what? They stay powerless. But high performers, they take total ownership of everything, even the stuff that's just bad luck. And she has zero, and I mean zero, tolerance for the victim mindset. She has this famous system. She keeps pictures of all the founders she's invested in up on her wall. The minute one of them starts blaming the market or their employees or anything else, she physically walks over and turns their picture upside down. It's her signal that they've given up their power. And that idea, that radical ownership, it's the ultimate secret weapon. Because think about it. If you believe you're responsible, then you always have a move to make. You can always choose to do something. You can always choose to keep fighting. And the real breakthroughs, the real magic, that almost always happens just past the point where most people would have thrown in the towel. And really, this is it. This is the big lesson from her whole career. Success isn't one big moment. It's not about winning or losing. It's about how many times you're willing to get back up after you get knocked down. You have to make getting back up a reflex, an automatic habit. Because once you do that, once persistence is just what you do, well, then you're basically unstoppable. So there you have it, the Barbara Corcoran playbook. It's just an incredible lesson in resilience, in thinking differently, and in the raw power of the human spirit. And it leaves all of us with a really big question to think about. What's the one setback in your life, the one failure, maybe even the one insult that you can take, reframe, and turn into your absolute greatest strength?